I used to drive a bus for 37 years. Good, steady work, quiet work. But all that time, there was this one thing I kept hidden from everyone. I wanted to sing, just sing on a stage. Not for fame, not for applause, just for the feeling. But I didn't. Not once. Why? Because of one stupid thought I couldn't shake. They'll laugh at me. And I let that voice bury things I didn't even know were alive in me. Today, I'm going to tell you how I lost so much. Not because I failed, but because I never tried. And why you don't have to do the same. I wasn't special, didn't want to be. I got up early, drank bad coffee, drove a big bus through small streets. Routine, familiar. I liked it that way. Familiar things don't ask questions. You do your job, come home, watch a little TV, go to sleep, repeat. And I didn't complain, not really. But even in the middle of that ordinary life, there was always this small sound under everything. Not a loud voice, just a quiet hum, like the radio's been left on in another room. And that hum said something simple. There's more. You don't know what, but you know it's there. It started when I was a kid. My mum used to play those old records on Sunday mornings, Sinatra, Sam Cooke, Ray Charles. The house smelled like tea and toast, and that music filled everything. I used to hum along, and I don't know where it came from, but somewhere in me I thought, maybe I could do that, maybe I could sing, just once. Not for anyone else, just for the feeling of it. And I remember thinking that when I got older, I'd find a way to try. But you know how it is. You grow up, work starts, bills pile up. Busy is a great way to hide from things you don't want to face. Here's the thing about dreams. They don't disappear just because you don't chase them. They just get quieter, like someone tapping on your shoulder, softer and softer, until you almost forget they were ever there. And every time I thought, maybe I'll go to that open mic, or maybe I'll sing just one song, another voice would step in before I could take a breath. Who do you think you are? That voice was sharp. I knew its tone, same voice that kept me safe by making me small, safer to keep dreams inside where nobody can laugh at them, safer to sit still. Fear doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it dresses up like responsibility. I've got work early, I'd say, or I don't have time for things like that. I'm not a kid anymore. It sounds good out loud, like I'm being reasonable, grown up. But underneath, I knew the truth. It wasn't about the hours. It wasn't about work. I was scared. Scared of standing on a stage and having someone laugh. Scared of opening my mouth and sounding like a fool. Scared of being seen. And I got really good at hiding behind reasonable excuses. That's the dangerous part about fear. It talks like a friend. There were moments, invitations from friends, posters hanging up in the windows of coffee shops, open mic night, singers welcome. I'd pause in front of them sometimes, stare just a second too long. The stage was there, the chance was there, but I'd keep walking like a stranger crossing the street to avoid someone they recognize. I'd pretend it didn't matter, pretend I was busy, pretend I had somewhere more important to be. But deep down, I knew what I was really doing. I was walking past my own life. And it's a strange thing. You don't feel the weight of that at first, but it adds up. And you know what happens when you don't answer something inside you? It stops calling so loudly. It's not that the dream dies. It just gets tired of asking. After a while, that voice inside just sits down like someone waiting on a bus that's never coming, and you start telling yourself stories. I never really wanted it anyway. It's too late now. What's the point? I told myself those things for years, and I almost believed them. Almost. But somewhere under all that noise, I knew I was lying to myself. I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of looking stupid while trying. Regret doesn't hit like a hammer. It's more like water dripping through the ceiling, slow, quiet. You don't notice it at first, just a tiny stain, easy to ignore, but it keeps going. And one day you look up, and the whole roof's sagging, and it's too late to pretend it's not there. That's how it felt. I remember one afternoon, standing at the kitchen sink. The radio was on, some old Sam Cooke song I used to love, and right there, holding a dish in my hand, I felt something snap. Not loud, just quiet, like a thread giving way. And that was the first time I really felt the weight of it. When I retired, the days got quieter. No more alarms, no more traffic, no more routes to drive. And with that quiet came something I wasn't ready for. No more excuses. Suddenly I wasn't too busy, I wasn't too tired. There were no more shifts to hide behind. It was just me, and that old dream I thought I'd buried. And I realized something that scared me more than standing on stage ever could. I had spent my whole life being busy avoiding the thing I actually wanted. Not because I didn't have time, but because I was afraid of what people might think if I tried. That was the truth of it. I thought I was afraid of singing, but that wasn't it. The real fear was something uglier, being seen, standing in the light where people could look right at me and decide what they thought. What if they laughed? What if they whispered to each other later? What if I opened my mouth and they heard the truth of me, and the truth was embarrassing? That's what I was running from. Not failure, not even rejection, just the raw, naked feeling of someone else's judgment. And the worst part was, I didn't even know who these people were. Just this vague crowd in my head. Ghosts I built myself. There were nights I sat alone with that thought. No TV, no music, just me and that argument in my head, like two old men on a park bench, bickering about the weather. Half of me saying, it's just one song, no one cares, and the other half whispering, you'll make a fool of yourself, they'll laugh, don't be stupid. And I'll tell you something honest. For a long time, the whisper always won. It felt safer, it felt smarter, but safe doesn't mean happy, and smart doesn't mean right. And eventually I started to realize I was letting my whole life be run by a whisper. I'd go watch others sing sometimes, sit in the back, clap politely, act like I didn't care. But inside, I wasn't really watching them, I was watching who I could have been. That's a hard thing to admit. Every song felt like a mirror I didn't want to look into, and it wasn't about talent or fame. I didn't want to be discovered or chased by record labels. I just wanted that feeling of standing there, doing something honest, just once. But I sat in the dark, pretending I was just there for the coffee. Meanwhile, the life I could have lived played out right in front of me. One night, something snapped. I remember it clear as anything. I was sitting alone in that little club, nursing a drink, when this young woman got up to sing. She was nervous. You could see it. Her hands shook. Her voice cracked a little on the first verse. But she kept going. She stood there and did it, even though it wasn't perfect, even though her voice trembled. And in that moment, something hit me so hard, I could barely swallow. What am I doing here, hiding from my own life? I wasn't protecting myself. I was wasting myself. And I knew I couldn't keep doing it. Deciding to do it didn't feel brave, didn't feel noble. It felt stupid, embarrassing. I remember thinking, I'm too old for this. What am I doing? But here's the truth. The first step always feels wrong. It's supposed to. That's your old life, screaming at you not to change. Your habits, your excuses, your comfort, all of them pulling at your sleeve, begging you to sit back down. And honestly, I almost did. But there comes a point where staying the same hurts more than the risk of changing. And that's where I was. Tired of my own excuses, tired of missing my own life. I signed up for the open mic night the next week, wrote my name down on that little clipboard by the bar, shaky hands, dry mouth, sat in the corner, sweating through my shirt like a man on trial. Every part of me wanted to run. I kept thinking, no one here wants to hear me sing. They'll laugh. They'll roll their eyes. I don't belong here. And when they finally called my name, I actually stood up and took a step toward the door. I almost left. Almost. But something stopped me. Maybe it was anger at myself. Maybe it was just plain exhaustion. But I stayed. But I didn't leave. I walked up there, didn't look at anyone, just stared at the microphone like it might save me from drowning. And you know what I noticed, standing there? Nobody was watching me the way I thought they would. Nobody was judging. Most people were looking at their drinks, talking to their friends, checking their phones. All that fear I'd carried for years, it was built on the idea that everyone cared. And they didn't. Not in a bad way, just in a human way. Everyone's too busy thinking about their own stuff. I wasn't the center of the world after all, and that felt good. I sang. Not well. My voice cracked, my knees shook, and I forgot the words halfway through the second verse. But here's the thing. No one laughed, no one pointed, they clapped. Not wild applause, not standing ovations, just polite, kind clapping. And for the first time in my life, I thought, I didn't die of shame. That was the thing I'd been so sure of for years, that embarrassment would break me, ruin me, leave me stuck in that moment forever. Turns out, embarrassment passes, and when it did, what was left was this strange, light feeling I didn't recognize at first. Relief. That night taught me something I should have learned decades earlier. The fear of looking foolish had been stronger than the fear of failing. I wasn't scared of being bad at singing. I was scared of someone smirking at me, whispering about me, rolling their eyes. Like people's opinions were weapons, and I was the target. But standing there, I saw it. Most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to tear yours apart. I'd spent years imagining a crowd that wasn't even there. All that weight I'd carried on my back, most of it was made up in my head. After that night, something shifted, not in a dramatic way. No fireworks, no big speeches, just this quiet, steady understanding. I had been living for other people's opinions, and most of those opinions didn't even exist. I realized how many decisions I'd made out of fear of being seen, of being judged, of being laughed at. And the strangest part was that nobody was actually paying that much attention. I'd been hiding from shadows of my own making. That's what changed. I started listening to that quiet hum inside me more than the noise I invented around me. I don't hate my life. I don't sit around full of regret or self-pity. I drove that bus. I paid my bills. I raised my family. But I do think about all the nights I stayed home, all the moments I kept my head down, all the songs I never sang because I didn't want to look silly. That's the part that stings. Looking foolish wouldn't have hurt me, hiding from myself did. And now, when I think about what I really missed, it wasn't applause or approval, it was myself. I missed meeting the version of me that wasn't afraid. If I could go back, I wouldn't tell my younger self to be fearless. That's just not how life works. Fear doesn't disappear just because you want it to. It's not something you outgrow like an old jacket. I'd tell him, do it anyway, even if you shake, especially if you shake. That shaking is proof that it matters to you. That's not weakness. That's life waking you up. I wasted years waiting for the fear to leave before I acted, like I was standing by for permission that was never going to come. I wish I'd known that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the thing while afraid. Here's the truth I wish I'd known sooner. Nobody is watching you the way you think they are. Everyone's busy worrying about their own cracks, their own shaking hands, their own unfinished stories. Most people aren't thinking about you at all. They're thinking about themselves. We all carry around this strange belief that the whole room is focused on our flaws, like we're under some kind of spotlight. But we're not. You're not being judged. You're being ignored. And I don't mean that in a bitter way. I mean it's freeing. It means you're allowed to try and mess up and still walk away whole. People love to say, "It's never too late," and that's true. I'm living proof of that. But here's the part no one says out loud. It's also not early. I waited decades to find out something I could have known at 20, and that's the part I wrestle with. If you've got something burning inside you, don't wait for the perfect moment or the right confidence or permission from the world. Just go. The clock's running whether you move or not. Regret's heavier than embarrassment. I've carried both. One fades fast, the other stays with you every quiet night. I wasted decades letting fear of shame sit in the driver's seat. And shame is a terrible driver. It takes you nowhere you want to go. Don't bury your life just to keep other people comfortable. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. Do the thing. Sing the song. Shake while you do it. Just don't sit in the back of your own life anymore. Before you go, if this story meant something to you, I'd love for you to subscribe and stick around. I'm sharing these not because I have answers, but because I've got questions. And maybe you do too. Leave a comment if you've ever held back from something just because of what others might think. What's one thing you wish you'd tried sooner? And if this hit home, I think you'll connect with the last story I told about Thomas, who spent his whole life being the right kind of man, only to realize too late it wasn't his life at all. Give that one a watch next.